Our top focus in WION right now. Syria looks to pick up the pieces and find a direction on the shape and nature of its government ahead. This even as Israel keeps up strikes on Syria territory. The Britain-based monitoring group Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said that Israel fired 61 missiles at Syrian military sites in less than 5 hours, maintaining a campaign which started after the fall of President Bashar al-Assad nearly a week ago. The leader of the rebels who seized power in Damascus criticized Israel for the strikes as well as its incursion into southern Syria. The chief of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or HTS group, Abu Muhammad al-Gulani, highlighted how Israelis have now crossed the disengagement line in Syria and said it threatened a new unjustified escalation in the region. But then later in the day, in a statement on the rebels' Telegram channel, he added that the exhaustion in Syria after years of war and conflict, it does not allow the country to enter new conflicts. Meanwhile, Lebanese militant group Hezbollah has warned the rebels that the new Syrian government should not establish ties with Israel. This as Syria struggles to get on its feet again. Preparations are on for Damascus International Airport to resume operations. It has been closed since December 8th following the fighting to oust al-Assad. The director of the Damascus International Airport, Anis Fallo, said that the Syrian airspace has already been opened for safe passage and that the airport would soon be ready to receive flights. Meanwhile, Syria have also reopened the pubs in the country, but now they're working cautiously after the rebels take over. They fear that the HTS would forbid the sale of alcohol in the Syrian territory. While no official statement has been made in this regard, an HTS official on condition of anonymity said that the reports surrounding the ban on alcohol, they are false and they are not true. He added that the government at present had bigger issues to deal with. Meanwhile, there have also been news of the reopening of the Turkish embassy in Damascus, which had suspended operations back in 2012 due to escalating security concerns during the civil war. Syrians welcomed the move. And on your screens right now, you can see the moment when the Turkish flag was raised above the walled compound in the Syrian capital for the first time in 12 years. Meanwhile, top diplomats from the US, the Arab League and Turkey met in the Jordanian port city of Aqaba to discuss how to support Syria's transition. The gathering, which also had in attendance representatives from the European Union and the United Nations, they spoke at length on the priorities the new leadership in Syria should adopt, including inclusivity, minority rights, and the destruction of the Assad-era chemical weapons stockpiles. They stressed that the Syrian territory should not become a base for terrorist groups. There was no Syrian representative on the table. Also, Iran and Russia, who were the ousted regime's key supporters, were not invited.
We do not want Syria to descend into chaos. We don't want for Syria but to move along a path that leads it toward the future, as I have said, a future that is prosperous for all Syrians. The mechanisms to achieve this future are clear. Mechanisms we all know, defined in Resolution 2254.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the country's officials have now direct contact with HTS and urged them and other rebel groups to assist with locating U.S. journalist Austin Tice, who was detained in Syria in 2012, and the whereabouts of the journalist still remains unknown. And to discuss this further, we were earlier joined by Adrian Calamal from New York. He's a fellow at Arabian Peninsula Institute, terrorism and Middle Eastern scholar. We asked him about the challenges that lies ahead for Syria, and here is what he had to say.
Great questions. With HTS, I think everybody needs that. We're looking at a transitional government and trying to bring and restore some order to the country that has been racked by civil war for so long. In the back of our mind, we have to remember that HTS is essentially, they are Taliban, they're al-Qaeda. That's who a lot of the rebel forces were. They're Chechens from al-Qaeda brigades, Uzbeks, Tajiks from al-Qaeda brigades. So what we've seen during this time is Jalani, who's gotten the full support from Erdogan, and we see the same type of thing in Afghanistan with the Taliban. This charm offensive is that they have ridden in the kind of the wake of the ISIS barbarism as presenting themselves as this moderate state option. But what we're really going to have, and this is my greatest fear, is that everybody's rushing through this. Turkey's driving this. The United States is with this in the dying days of the Biden administration, is that you're going to have another Islamic emirate right on the Mediterranean this time. So you have an Islamic emirate in Afghanistan. You're going to have an Islamic emirate in Syria. And those are the building blocks towards building a global caliphate. And that should be everybody's concern. Jalani just didn't shed his jihadist al-Qaeda clothes overnight. He was issued a bayat with al-Qaeda, and you can't break those. ISIS broke that, and we saw what happened to ISIS. So this is a concern.